Piccolologist Dr. Q. Cumbus Clausen.
Capitalist St. Paul.
Much like you'd embrace an old friend passing into retirement, Minnesotans today poured onto the frozen field of Metropolitan Stadium to bid farewell. The 25-year-old ball yard that has been host to one World Series and numerous NFL playoff games has seen its last touchdown, heard its last shout from the crowd. The final game at the Met. That story leads the Sunday edition of the 10 p.m. report.
Sportscaster Rob Lear.
Good evening. You had asked for joining us. If you've never visited Met Stadium, today was the day to have done it, as thousands of fans poured onto the field to carry away what memories they could from the end of an era. Ralph John Fritz has joined us at the top tonight with details of today's farewell in Bloomington.
Mike, most of today's fans really waited until the end of the game, fortunately, to go souvenir hunting. And as it turned out, they had to settle for a loss to Kansas City. But in the end, no one really seemed to mind. The entire game boiled down to this play coming up with only seconds left. An incomplete pass to Joe Sensor that could have won it for the Vikings. But it's incomplete. And once that is over, the fans set about the task of souvenir hunting. And as expected, one of the first things to go, the goalposts, as fan after fan after fan piled on top. The stadium seats followed, and then the railings. Some fans even managed to get away with pieces of turf. I wish we could say anything that wasn't nailed down was fair game, but even that would not be accurate. Despite all this, Bloomington police tell us there were no real unexpected problems and no arrests were made. Most fans were simply interested in finding their own way to say goodbye to Met Stadium. WCCO's Jim Newman was at the Met this afternoon for the last hurrah, and here's Jim's report.
You can grab yourself a big hot dog. You can use the facilities. You can pat the railings. You can sit in the bleachers looking sad. You can tailgate like crazy, really crazy. But what you cannot do is stop the last of something from slipping away. Oh, folks at the Met made the most of it, squeezing the last possible drop of joy out of those traditional parking lot parties, shivering and cheering like mad for the Vikes at their last outdoors home game. But despite all the fun, that scoreboard clock edged from quarter to quarter the last time, and the last charcoals burned to ash after the last tailgate parties. And there were those inevitable last interviews with the last fans at the Met. Are you going to miss it?
Yes, I am very much so.
How come?
I just love it out here. I've been in these same seats for 20 years.
You like the dome better?
You bet your life. Well, who wants to play in a game at a temperature like this?
You're just too cold out here, right?
No, it's too cold for the players.
I don't believe football should be played on a rug and indoors. But I'm going to go. I'm going to go.
It shouldn't close. Look at the parking lot. You know, no more tailgates, no more, I'm going to sell my stock in long underwear.
A stadium can't die. It is only cement and steel. But the Met will be lifeless. The Met will seem dead after today. Yet all those fans who made the rafters ring here are sure to still find ways to live it up, and the new Metrodome waits for that, like a big, empty egg a few miles north. With photographer Bob Fishnick, Jim Newman, WCCO Television News, Bloomington.
And, of course, they're going to have an extra 20,000 per game in the Met, and you know that it'll be filled.
By the dome, you mean?
In the dome, I'm sorry. Right. Did we mention they played a game this afternoon? It was 10-6.
Kansas City.
Kansas City.
We
Wrong
lost.
Team. I didn't want to mention that.
Sorry to lose.
We'll be back with those
game
highlights a little later.
5 in a row. All right, thank you, Ralph John. Elsewhere in the news tonight, the Polish ambassador to the United States stunned the world today with a request for asylum in this country.
Romuald Spasowski announced he is defecting at a press conference this afternoon at the State Department. In making the request for himself and his family, the ambassador angrily lashed out at the Polish government. He said a reign of brutal and inhumane terror has swept the nation at the hands of the new military government.
Trapping as many as 1,300 other miners underground. The workers are reportedly threatening to blow up a second exit.
Force was just about unable to stop fans out at Metropolitan Stadium in Bloomington today as about 1,000 psyched-up Viking fans stormed the field. and ripped off just about everything they could get their hands on. It was the final game at the Met, and while the Vikings lost, the real damage was done to Metropolitan Stadium. Tony Vigneri reports.
The goalpost was the first to go. Fans were attracted to it like bees to honey, and down it went. Pocket knives cut up the frozen turf. A piece of the Met they wanted, and they got. Some fought over it. In this case, a bloody eye appeared to be worth the speaker in hand.
And while one group rushed the field to take home whatever they could there, another group stayed up in the stands to take home the chairs.
Just a jump here and there produced souvenir seats, although some didn't want to talk about it.
Hey, what are you taking the seat for?
Security tried to prevent destruction to the Met, but 460 guards against a mob of psyched-up Viking fans? No way. Some thought it was a great way to say goodbye to 21 years at the Met. Others thought it was downright despicable.
Just look around here and all this destruction that's going on. I can't stand it. It makes me sick.
Everybody's saying they want a souvenir.
Whoopee, let them come over and buy it. This is sickening. This is so depressing. I thought Minnesota, get out of here, you creep. It's sick. I'm disappointed.
And while warnings were that anyone walking out with Met property would be stopped and charged with theft, walking out of this stadium today with your favorite souvenir in hand or in tow was as easy as pie. Tony Vigneri, Channel 5 Eyewitness News, Bloomington.
And when we return, we'll have a special report on the Vikings' 21 years at the Met.
Come on, Phil. Get into the holiday spirit.
A Santa suit? Bah, humbug.
But the children expect it.
Humbug.
Christmas is made for Kodak film, and a Holiday Station store is where you'll find it. Kodak C11024 and Kodak C1...
For hitting Rome, Stan Rome, and that only touchdown of the game, because he was proving his mobility, which the Vikings' Tommy Kramer did not have. But he is, maybe he can get those knees rested in 6-7 months or whatever they had. But the bittersweet ending to the Viking season, losing to Kansas City 10-6. The final game at the Met was a mistake-filled game. It was played on a frozen field between two teams who'll be home for the holidays. Give Greg Coleman the Oscar for this pratfall here. Kansas City was called for running into the kicker, and it leads to a Rick Danmeyer field goal. Earlier in the week, Tony Galbraith giving Kansas City the win. Probably everybody felt the Vikings are going to pull this one out, but it was only typical of the way the second half went this season for the Vikings. 10-6, the final for KC. And, of course, overshadowing the Vikings' 5th straight loss, their 7-9 season and their 4th place finish in the NFC Central Division, was the final day at the Met. And from the air, it really looked like tiny ants about to claim another hill. And you'll see here, coming up, the goalposts bent like toothpicks, and later they were to be hacksawed into chunks of steel souvenirs. As Bob Hope would say, thanks for the memories. All right, let's break into Bud's office and see why he ran on that 3rd down play. And here's a guy who'll have the best stereo sound in town, and can you believe there were no arrests made by the Bloomington police today? Wait till my friends see these on my backyard patio. There are fans and there are fans, but let us tell you, these are Minnesota fanatics. And here's Bud Grant.
Our fans have never deserted us here. They've been great. They were great today. They wanted us to win. They wanted to be proud of us. We just didn't get the job done, but it wasn't because of the fans.
You couldn't say it better, Bud. Stay tuned immediately following the 10 p.m. He got the ball close. Back at some Met history and all the highlights from today's game on the Rashad Rosen NFL Report.